Hi, I'm Tom Bohan, your South Florida State College recruiter. We have a tremendous event scheduled for you here today. Without further ado, allow me to introduce our Dean of Student Services, Dr. Wise.
Hello, and welcome to the Minority Male Initiative Day at South Florida State College. I am Dr. Wise, Dean of Student Services here at SFSC. Today, we will help you to see that college is within your reach. We will show you that attending college can provide you with opportunities for a great career and a more satisfying life. We will also guide you to understand that college is easily accessible to all within Highlands, Hardee, and DeSoto counties. And we will demonstrate that SFSC is financially affordable. Most of our students qualify for federal, state, and local financial aid and scholarships, resulting in a free college education for many. SFSC is here to help you access your future success. So, thank you for joining us today. And please feel free to contact me, my staff, or your high school guidance counselor for any questions that you might have after this presentation. Now, let's proceed to our next speaker, Dr. Timothy Beard, President of Pasco Hernando State College. Dr. Beard is an outstanding educator, a former Vice President of Student Affairs, and now the President of one of the best state colleges in Florida. I think you will appreciate his words of wisdom and his motivational talk. I now give you Dr. Timothy Beard.
Again, I want to thank the South Florida State College for this opportunity to speak to your student body and to your college community and external community. It certainly is always a pleasure to be able to say something of impact that's going to help individuals to be better than what they are. The words of Nelson Mandela often sort of cry out in my soul every day, and that is, education is the most powerful tool we have in which to change the world. I also believe that in order to become a more perfect union, as we pursue what we call life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, we need to do all we can to engage every sector of our population. Our males, in particular our males of color, represent a great and very important part of who we are as a country, as a nation, as a society. And it is incumbent upon all of us as educators to do all we can to include this population of students and citizens in the advancement of education. I also believe that in order to move forward, it is important to, yes, remember the past. And of course, this is Black History Month, in which we go back and underscore some of the great contributions of people of color, particularly Black African Americans. I always say too that Black history is not just Black history, but it is American history. And we all do well to remember those great achievements of people like Nat Turner, Harriet Tubman, people like Frederick Douglass, of course, the Dr. Martin Luther King of the world, the Malcolm X's, and we can go on and on. And the reason I recall these individuals is because regardless of what we do, what I do, my generation does, I always said we achieve not because we're any smarter than what they were. We achieve because we stand on the shoulders of giants. These are giants in civil rights. These are giants in education. These are giants who have helped set a standard that we still work daily to try to adhere to. But I want all of us to imagine, though, that we are on a journey. And within this journey of life, it could easily change on a dime. And how relevant it is to talk about changing on a dime when we speak of this pandemic in which we all have been trying to manage the consequences over the last year or so. But life many times is like a pandemic. It could change unexpectedly, unintentionally. And with that comes a lot of consequences, a lot of complications, But it reminds me, though, that life is not so much a promise versus a journey. And I tell a lot of my students over the years, and we've had the opportunity to be engaged and involved in the lives of thousands of students over my 36 plus years in higher education. And hopefully today I get a chance to talk about maybe some of the childhood experiences that I experienced. But life can change on a dime. But I believe this about life, is that rewards are given to the diligent seekers, those seekers who refuse to quit. I don't know if you all know this, not that it's that important to you all, but it's important to me, is that I confess to be a born-again Christian. Tim probably knows, Dr. Wise, that I've been in ministry for over 45 years. But I've always seen education as an additional platform to what I do in my faith and in the religious world. But there's a saying in the good book that says, he that cometh to God, and I quote, he that cometh to God, quote, must believe that he is, and he is a rewarder unto those who diligently seek him. And what that verse, unquote, is saying is that if you don't give up, if you don't quit, there is a chance, if you have the faith, there's a chance, pretty good chance, that you're going to be rewarded for your diligence. So in a nutshell, if our students are going to receive that reward that they seek, and not just students, but all of us, as we set goals and set objectives, if they are to be achieved, we've got to be diligent. Understanding this, life is going to happen, going to change, sometimes on a dime. Who would have thought, here we are 12 months after the announcement of this pandemic, that we're still dealing with low enrollment, still dealing with having to wear a mask and social distancing, still dealing with trying to vaccinate individuals who are certainly fragile and could easily be susceptible to this virus, and often and a lot of times lead to death. Who would have thought that? But given that we have this pandemic, what are we going to do about it? What are we going to do about it? And this is a lesson I think that all of us must learn, particularly our Black African-American males and males of color, and that is life changes on a dime. But sometimes, and most of the time, it's not so much of what happens to us, but it's our attitude to what happens. Attitude, and you've heard, determines altitude. The right attitude, I believe, that we're able to create successes. We're able to see opportunities in the midst of chaos. And here at PHSC, Pasco Highlands State College, as I interviewed with Tampa Invest today, a magazine publication, I told them, as they asked the question, what has been the key to our institution being able to move forward with over 2,500 graduates last year, a 10-year reaffirmation accreditation through our SAC COC, as well as make sure our students are placed in various jobs. It starts at the top. It starts with me. Students, it starts with you, with the right attitude. You can always go further forward with positive energy than you can with negative energy. Learn how to see lemons if that's what's presented to you. But also the bigger picture is you've got to be able to make some lemonade. My life has been about taking lemons and making lemonade. Born, matter of fact, a Valentine's Day baby in 1962. So thank you all for wishing me happy birthday. But a Valentine baby, some 59 years ago. Of course, I said 5 now, not 59. Next year I'll be 5'10", not 60. But you can see from my hair falling out, I'm an old man. But long story short, I was born, as my mother told me, with somewhat embarrassment before she passed away. She passed away in 2001, but around 98, after living my life close to 36 years, she said, I was embarrassed to tell you that I didn't quite make it in the living room. We didn't have a car in '62, and we had to borrow, go and tap on your barber's door, Mr. Philip King, to rush me to the hospital. Your dad was panicking, and we didn't quite make it, even though it was maybe 10 minutes down the road, and you were born on the ground. And I said, Mama, you could have told me that, because guess what? I may have been born on the ground, but I didn't stay on the ground. I am still climbing higher heights and deeper depths. I am still going forward in life, because I understood that you didn't have the resources that others did not have. But you gave me one thing. You gave me the importance of faith and positive thinking. You taught me how to take lemons and make lemonade. So as I have progressed in life, educationally, and spiritually, I owe it to giants such as my parents, Roosevelt and Dorothy Beard, what you all put in me, because you were determined, Mom, more than anybody, to make sure that if I was born on the ground, I did not stay on the ground. So you taught me how to be a diligent seeker of success. And today and over the last several years and beyond, I feel like I've been rewarded. I often tell people, and they ask me, how do I feel and how am I doing? I say, I couldn't be more blessed. If I wanted to complain, I would not, because God has been good to me. And I often tell God in my prayer time, if you never do anything else for me, God, you've done enough. If you never bless me with another blessing, you've done enough. So I've learned how to be appreciative. You taught me that, Mom. You told me early on that a humble child will taste the grace. And I have been graced with God's presence to be successful in the spiritual and the natural world. But back to this diligent seeker. A diligent seeker has to understand the importance of having the right, again, attitude. An attitude transformation is so critical. It is easy to stay bitter about the past. As we celebrate Black History Month, many of us are able to see some of the what I call unbelievable acts of hatred and atrocities that were committed back in the 50s, 60s, and even before then. It's enough to make you sick. It's enough to make you bitter. It's enough to make you want to hate people in your flesh. But there has to be something inside of you that comes from God that says, it's okay, we will remember the past. Some things we can appreciate, some things we cannot. But we refuse to live in the past. It's okay to remember the past, but we can't live back there. We must go forward. A diligent seeker who's going to receive the rewards. There are some things that God will give you for your diligence. And one thing that I understand as a diligent seeker is the love for God. God has placed in me a love for people. And by the way, being in education is not so much a career. For me, it's a calling. God has called for us to want to change and impact the lives of young people in our community. But as a diligent seeker, I've got to have the right attitude. I can't hold grudges. I can't hold things against people in the past. I've got to be willing to go forward with the right, again, attitude. And because I have the right attitude, the sky's the limit. The sky's the limit. And as males and males of color, learn how to bloom where you're planted. No one can argue with success. No one will ever put you down for being successful. There's something about blooming where you're planted. It is so easy to make excuses. It is so easy to get what we call the victim syndrome and say, oh, me. Diligent seeker who's looking for the reward does not allow himself to live in victimization. We've got to make sure attitudinally that we remove from the victim to a victor mentality. As I look in the past, I have a choice. I have a choice of living in the past, being the victim and say, oh, how they treated my parents and grandparents, oh, what a terrible nation this is. Or I have a choice to say, hey, we were developing, we were evolving into a more perfect union. We're a lot further than where we were, even though we have a long ways to go, but let's go forth with positive energy. So in order to be a diligent seeker who gets the reward, it's important for our students, our males of color, to say, I'm removing myself from a victim mentality to a victor mentality. Victor means we're winning and we're going to win. So that is critical as we go forward as people of color, males of color. You're standing on the shoulders of giants. And I've always felt personally that I allow myself to let down those giants, such as Dr. King and Mr. Woodson, Dr. Woodson, Carter Woodson. I let people down like Frederick Douglass. I let the Rosa Parks down when I allow myself to live with a victim mentality. They would be so proud of us as we continue to go forward and say the sky's the limit. We have opportunities we've never had before. And woe to us if we don't take advantage of these opportunities, these doors of education that have been opened by these great giants. And Florida State University, and I know I'm kind of going back and forth, but I'm trying to drive home this point that it's going to take a diligent seeker to get the reward. Florida State University back in, I think, 2013, won the national championship. And their motto was, no more excuses. We've come so close, but close was not close enough. So as we go forward in this year, we don't have any excuses. We're going to get the job done. So as we become this diligent seeker, our attitudes as males of color, males in general, we don't have an excuse. We're not going to make an excuse. We're going to be like Nike. We're just going to do it. We're going to get the job done. So you see the importance again of attitude. If we're going to win in life, it's going to take the right attitude. If we're going to be a better country, if I'm going to be a better citizen, making it personal, it's going to take the right attitude. And we know we just finished very ugly presidential election. Politics have been so ugly these past several years. And I was reminding one of my friends today that our children are watching. My girls, who happens to be young adults, 25 and 23, they're watching. They're watching. So what we say and what we do is so vital, because as a diligent seeker, I want to make sure I leave this world better than I found it. I want to leave my children better than they found me. And when they came to the world, I want to make sure they're better young ladies. And the way I do that, I do things that are moral, ethical, and legal, okay? But a diligent seeker is a loving person. A diligent seeker is a faithful person. A diligent seeker is a person that's very resilient. And let me talk about resiliency for a while, because at the end of the day, failure is something that all of us experience from time to time. I would love to be able to tell you all that I'm perfect, but I'm not. I've had my ups and I've had my downs, but the ability to manage failure is something that is very, very critical to obtaining a reward as a diligent seeker. And I want to say to our males and to all in general, learn how to deal with failure. Learn how to deal with frustration. Learn how to deal with disappointment. Because if you can learn these lessons, you're going to bloom where you're planted. Somebody's going to see that this person does not allow adversity, does not allow COVID-19, the pandemic, to stop them. They're still blooming. And oh, how we need individuals in today's climate that can manage well in the midst of chaos. One reason we've been successful in the institution the last 12 years is because we've challenged our team of administrators to find opportunity to be successful in the midst of chaos. Again, back to attitude. I believe today that if I'm going to be a diligent seeker, I've got to, again, be resilient, because at the end of the day, sometimes we don't succeed as we want to. We have different things such as failure that stop us from getting that prize. What if Harriet Tubman would have stopped? What if Nat Turner would have stopped? What if Dr. King would have stopped, even though he was put in jail and beaten? What if we would have stopped the civil rights movement with what happened in Selma, Alabama in 1965 at Edmund Pettus Bridge? What if we would have stopped when John F. Kennedy was assassinated? What if we would have stopped when Dr. King was assassinated? We've got to keep going forward. This more perfect union has a responsibility for each generation. To our males, it's your time. And if not now, when? We need males, and I'm not gonna be much longer. We need males who are diligent seekers in our homes. There's no reason why our homes and our community, particularly communities of color, should not have both parents. It bothers me when I see the mothers and the grandmothers raising our children. No, my dad finished the 7th grade, but he was present during my upbringing. If he wouldn't have been present, if he wouldn't have been there, I don't believe I would be who I am and what I am today. But he was there. We need our males in our homes. Our children need you. Make it your priority. Make it your mission to be present at home if you happen to have children. We need our males in our education institutions. And most of you at South Florida know, seem like it's just a little bit more challenging to enroll, retain, and complete our males, particularly our males of color. But we have a passion. We have a mission. We've got to be diligent about it. Many of our students, they're the first to enter our doors, go into higher education, their families. Many things they don't know. They don't know how to perhaps be retained and be successful students. We owe it to them. As a first generation college student, college graduate, somebody had to help me. And we've got to be that support for our students. So I need for all of us to know and to understand that we have a charge in higher education to our students of color, particularly our males, in order to make this union a more perfect union. But again, I'm a diligent seeker of knowledge, a seeker of students of color to be successful. We need our students of color, our males in our education institutions, because we need them in our community. We need them in the job market. It's a global economy. In America, I just think that we do ourselves an injustice. We're not a better country if we don't include everybody into this spectrum of education. The spectrum of education is so important. We live in a global society, and if we're going to be the America that our founding, we're going to be the America that our civil rights leaders exalted, we have a contribution to make as a society. But a diligent seeker is one, lastly, that has dreams. And I'm going to leave you with this. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. had a mentor by the name of Dr. Benjamin Mays at Morehouse College for Men. Most of us know that Dr. King, at the age of 15, finished high school. You know, Morehouse College for Men at the age of, I think, 15, finished at 19. But he will tell you, he did not get to the mountaintop of success by himself. He had a mentor. And before I make this quote, our males need mentors. Please be a mentor to help somebody. Now that you have lifted yourself up, somebody else needs your help. But the great travesty, as Dr. Mays would say, he said it like this: it must be borne in mind that the tragedy of life doesn't lie in not reaching your goal. The tragedy lies in having no goal to reach. It isn't a calamity to die with dreams unfulfilled, but it is a calamity not to dream. It is not a disaster to be unable to capture your ideal, but it is a disaster to have no ideal to capture. It is not a disgrace not to reach the stars, but it is a disgrace to have no stars to reach for. Not failure, but low aim is sin. Let me say it again. Not failure, but low aim is sin. Unquote. Other words, the sky is the limit. We've got to shoot for the stars. We can be better. We can do better. You can do better. And I can do better. Perhaps if we will indeed be a diligent seeker who will indeed reap the rewards in due season if we faint not. Thank you. It's been my delight to give you a few words of inspiration today. But as we said, PHSC, I see you at the top. Thank you.
Hello, I would like to welcome you to South Florida State College Minority Male Initiative. My name is Rob Hampton, Director of the Career Development Center. And now I would like to turn it over to today's presenters.
Okay, my name is Ricardo Pantoja. I lived here in Highlands County now for over 20 years. I actually attended and graduated from Evo Park High School, Go Red Devils. And I decided to come here to South Florida State College to continue my education and completed my AA. And then I went on and got my bachelor's degree later on. I had to transfer. So I've been working at South Florida State College now for 14 years. And I'm currently now the coordinator for the financial aid office. And basically what we do, we process those FAFSA applications to help our students, pay for college. And of course, and in addition, I also take care of all the loan applications. So any students that request a student loan, I pretty much take care of that for us here.
Can you give us a general idea of how to apply for college?
Okay, general idea, I can give you that in three easy steps. But of course, each one of those will probably have more things that you will need to do in each of those areas. But to keep it simple and basic, number one, and this you can apply to any college that you want to go, not just South Florida State College, but if you want to go to UCF in Orlando, USF in Tampa, University of Miami, anywhere. Basically, you need to complete admissions application. That's number one. You have to complete the admissions application first. Second, you will need to submit transcripts. You graduated high school or will be graduating high school soon. You will need to submit high school transcript to that or those institutions, as well as college transcripts if you attended college before, okay? And third, you need to complete the financial aid application, what we call the FAFSA. Those are, to me, the three most important things.
Generalmente, ¿cómo yo puedo aplicar a la universidad o colegios?
Muy bien, para mí yo lo cualifico en tres pasos bien importantes. Obviamente cada paso, en cada paso hay más cosas que uno tendrá que completar, pero por lo menos los tres pasos más básicos para mí es número uno, la solicitud de admisión. No importa cualquier institución que tú quieras ir, quieras matricularte, sea la Universidad Central de la Florida, sea la Universidad de Miami, donde quiera que tú vayas o hasta con nuestra institución, tienes que llenar la solicitud de admisiones. Eso es bien importante. Número dos, tienes que enviar la transcripción de crédito de tu high school para comprobar tu grado de high school, que te graduaste de high school, y también cualquier otra transcripción de crédito de algún otro colegio o universidad que hayas atendido anteriormente. Y por último, la aplicación del FAFSA, lo que llamamos el FAFSA, que es para cualquier tipo de ayuda financiera para ayudarte a completar, a pagar el college, tu educación. So, esos tres pasos son los más importantes para mí, para completar la solicitud de college. Sorry.
Why is it important for students to seek a higher education?
Good question. growing up, my parents were always, behind us, always to go to college and pushing us and encouraging us to go to college. And each one of us did, not at the same time, of course, but, everyone has issues, life that happens, but we were able to go and get some type of education, after high school. To me, it is very important. It opens the door for so many opportunities. I mean, it doesn't matter what you want to do, where do you want to go, where does life takes you. Just having that education, it helps tremendously. And it changes your life for a positive way, in many positive ways. It changes your life. And not only your life, but also your family, you're going to be able to help your parents. You're going to be able to help your brothers, your sisters, and they're going to look at you in a different way, like a role model or some type of a person that they can look up to. So you're going to be able to impact and change the lives of your cousins, of your aunts, of your uncles, so many people. So education just doesn't change your life. To me, it just exponentially changes everyone's around you. So
you mentioned FAFSA earlier. How can financial aid help a student seek a higher education?
Yeah, so the number one thing for financial aid and students to benefit from that is to complete the FAFSA, like I mentioned earlier. It's basically an application, and it's for what's best known as the Pell Grant. And so it's a free application. And if you are eligible for it, you will receive that Pell Grant, free money. So, and that's one of the things that we as students, we always worry about, how am I going to pay for college? So we have those resources there. So please take advantage of those. They're free. All they need to do is apply. And students may be eligible for that Pell Grant that I'm just talking about, but also many other grants and scholarships and many opportunities that are there. Work study, student loans, different state grants and local grants. So,
what are some common barriers that college students face?
Working in financial aid, the one that I see here the most, of course, is how am I going to pay for college? So, of course, and like I mentioned earlier, you have to apply for that. Don't worry if you don't think that you qualify. Don't worry if you don't know what to do. Just ask the questions, talk to the right people. We're here to help you. They will be there to help you, of course, and make sure that you complete that application. Other things that I hear too, it's location. Maybe it's too far from them. They don't want to go out of state. They don't want to go that far from home. It could be also that they need to be close to home for other reasons. They probably need to be working nearby so that they can help support the family. But I think overall, it can be done. There's so many opportunities nowadays. So if you want to stay local, you can. You cannot take your state college like us, of course. If that's not a problem for you, then you could travel far, go out of state. If you need to be working, then you could go part-time. You could do online. So there's so many opportunities, so many avenues for students nowadays to get their education. So there's no excuse.
What is a common question normally asked about college?
How do I do it? How do I start? Where do I go? So they don't know how is the process. So I've always said, just ask the questions. Find someone that can help you. Find a mentor. Don't be afraid of putting yourself out there and wanting to learn more, and then asking those questions, those key questions that will help you, guide you through the process. So yeah, just being out there.
All right. And lastly, what are some words of encouragement that you would like to leave with our Minority Male Initiative group?
Well, that it can be done, just like you guys are there sitting in high school, seniors, juniors. I was there too, again, from Avon Park High School, thinking, what am I going to do next? Where am I going to go? And it can be done. I mean, if I did it and I had the same struggles as you guys probably have or will have, or it can be done. Just like I said, find a mentor, find someone that will guide you through the process, that will help you. Don't be afraid of change. Don't be afraid of asking those questions. Get the help. The help is out there. It's free. And you'll be surprised once you start doing that process and asking questions and connecting, how the people that are at the other end are so willing to help you and guide you through the process. So,
my name is Antonio James. I am the program specialist for Panther's Partners program. I was years ago, I was once a student in the program and went on to follow other careers that I had in mind, and now I'm back here as a program specialist.
Can you tell us a little bit about Panther Youth Program?
The Panther Youth Program, our main focus is to pretty much guide students on their path to whatever career choice they decide. We have something we call positive outcomes that we kind of try to gear our focus towards, whether it's military, post-secondary, or work, getting a full-time career somewhere. But our focus is to guide the students through that whole process, to kind of be that bridge for them. We kind of walk along with them. We don't, it's not a, we don't, how would I say it? We don't do it for you, but we want you to become independent in your walk, but we do walk along with you.
Okay. What led you to pick your career field?
Well, actually, my career choice growing up was compute. Well, first it was business, but I had dreads, so I didn't want to cut my dreads. So I went on to work at Panther, which is a rehab. It's more about rehabilitating people with brain injuries, and I worked there for a year. And then in the midst of working there, I kind of found a passion for helping people. So then I went on to work Department of Corrections for 9 years. And through that whole process with Department of Corrections, I kind of found more of a passion to help people in different ways. Grew a lot there, learned a lot. I'm kind of a person that don't like to be stagnant. I want to always be growing and learning. So if I get to a point where I'm not learning and growing, then I have to proceed on to continue to further grow in other areas. But my main career goal growing up was computer engineering. I also went to school for it to get my AA, but never really got a chance to experience the career field. But it's still a passion for me, but I really love to help people. So that's kind of why I'm here. Actually took I think it was like a $6,000 pay cut to come work at the Panther Youth Partners. And the reason why I decided to come and work because of the change that program has put on my life. And I want to kind of give that back to others. So that's why I'm here.
You hit it on it a little bit. How does higher education play a role in your particular career field now?
Well, it plays a role in a lot of aspects, especially when it comes to being somewhat educated. You can't, if you don't have the education, it's kind of hard to educate others. So you really have to have that education. Majority of the truth of it is majority of my training and education and my learning came from experience. I learned a little bit from school, but majority of it came from just experiencing in different aspects, especially working Department of Correction, dealing with so many different people, their training, also working the rehabilitation center, learning the psychology behind different aspects of people. So it's a lot of different aspects when you talk about education. And it's really, when it comes to careers, it's really all depending on whatever your career choice is when it involves education.
Can you name any barriers you had to overcome while pursuing your current career or a previous career?
Well, I would just speak on barriers overall, especially me growing up. My life growing up, I had everything kind of against me to become successful. I grew up in a family involved in drugs and a lot of women, and watching my uncle sell drugs and cook drugs and move drugs and all that type of stuff. And along with his lifestyle of selling drugs, I kind of built this image of success in drug industry. I can sell drugs, make a lot of money real quick, get me a nice car, put some big rims on it, give me a nice chain. The image, I kind of look more at the image side of it. And that's kind of growing up. That's kind of what I was going towards at a young age from, started selling cocaine and selling drugs and partying and all that stuff. And, it was really the lifestyle I looked up to. I actually had really, to rewind a little bit, going through school, when I got in like middle school, my dream was, I had two choices growing up. One was to either make it in football or sell drugs for the rest of my life. It was my goal since middle school. But, going through that whole process and then meeting, especially Mr. Eddie, he's played a big role in my life. When I met him, he kind of took me a different route. He kind of became that role model from a young age and kind of pushed me down a different road and gave me a different aspect of looking at life. But it was a process. And I think the biggest thing when it comes to that is having people that see you for what you are and then standing by your side to get you through that whole process. But I got through it. I learned stuff. And I think another thing that really changed me is when I started working at the prison, seeing these guys that sat at prison and how they lived. And I didn't want to be that person, And I used to always tell the inmates, I'm no different from you. The only difference is you got caught and I didn't, and I changed, and you have an opportunity to change also. But it's your choice.
What is something that you wish you knew prior to entering your career field?
Well, one thing I wish I knew, live life right. And I believe living life right kind of puts everything more in perspective. Like the simple things of that I see a lot that I kind of wish I knew is how to manage time, how to manage finances, how to manage just daily tasks that you go through every day. And with the management of them aspects, I think it kind of I would say it allows you to accomplish much more. I wish I also knew that reading was so important. The more I went through life and started, because growing up I hated reading. I love math, but I hated reading. And then I learned that reading books has so much knowledge in it. And I got so much knowledge from just reading books. And I really suggest even some of the youth that watch this video, I really suggest you find books to read. Also, you're not too young to start your career. Even if you're in high school, middle school, whatever, find whatever you would like to do and start learning it now. Don't wait till you get to college or at the end of your high school career or in the middle of high school. If you're start now, start learning that stuff, because it'll put you much further ahead than learning it at the end of your high school career.
What are some words of encouragement you would like to leave with our Minority Male Initiative group?
I would just say find a mentor. A mentor that's gonna really put you on the right road and really build a relationship with them. Take that advice. Even parents, most parents they do what they can to help based on what they know. But a lot of them, they have a lot of good nuggets that you can really take, and don't just close them out, but really listen. Listen to the older people, the ones that experience life. and take in what they have and really use it. It's a lot of things that I wish I would have took in at a young age from my grandfather. And now that I'm older, I'm just now listening, and the quicker you take in and listen to what people are telling you, especially the good advice, the better off you'll be. But the biggest thing is having a mentor. You need a mentor. You need someone that'll walk with you through life. And that's one. And stay focused. Life is hard. It don't get easier, but keep pushing. Look for someone to keep encouraging you, and just stay on task. Stay on whatever that goal is you have. You can do it. There's one thing I learned about life: anything you set your mind to, you can do. No matter how hard, no matter how difficult it seems, it is capable. You are capable of doing it. If you look back at the most successful people in our world today, all the, everything was against them. But one thing they did was they didn't give up. And then, over time, they had their breakthrough and they had their success by not giving up.
All right, well, first off, my name is Caleb Jones. I am a banker here at Mid-Florida Credit Union. Pretty much my job details are pretty much to assist members with all the financial needs, whether it be loans, new accounts, existing accounts, or even just financial education as far as that. So I pretty much do it all on the finance basis as much as possible. There are a few things that kind of are out of my realm, but even if they are, I try my best to get members in front of the right people so that they can be assisted in those other avenues as well.
What led you to pick your career?
Pretty much everything I've been doing up to this point now has been on the emphasis of helping others. I came from a family where, we always look out for the next one as far as that. So that was kind of what I was raised upon. So going out into the career field, that was my ambitions. And hey, how can I impact the lives of someone else? It's not always about us. It's about what you do for other people as far as that, because we all depend on one another. So that what got me into the field of helping others. I initially started with insurance, like final expense as far as that, like life insurance, the whole nine as far as that. Getting families set up there. While I was there, I saw another need as far as, hey, let's go deeper into this thing. People they don't know about credit. They don't know how to manage their money. They don't know about bank accounts, different things as far as that. So I got in with Mid-Florida. They had a management program there. I went through that program. Now I came out of this program as far as that, but now it's got me in a position where I'm kind of more hands-on with folks, and sometimes like literally walking them through month by month basis as far as what they do on their accounts, and hey, we can't do this right here because we want to do that type of deal as far as that. But it's been great because it's allowed me to really get in depth and impact lives at another standpoint as far as that. So that's how it kind of got me into the banking career.
How has higher education played a role in your particular career field?
In particular, I mean, again, the manager program, I have a bachelor's in management with a minor in accounting. So the crazy part is I've never been a fan of actual math as far as that, but I did always love numbers. I mean, who doesn't like counting money? I mean, it's a good thing, especially when it's coming in and not going out. But that what kind of got me into the manager program, because I did have my bachelor's in management. Now, of course, you can get in and kind of work your way up as far as that, but certain programs that they do require higher education for. Plus, the extra knowledge is very, very helpful as far as that. I will say, if you can't go the college route, by all means, get mentors, talk to folks as far as that, get as much certification that you can in other financial realms, and set yourself up to be in that position. Because again, as long as you know the information, you really can't turn it down. And this avenues, like in Florida, they have avenues where they'll actually help you get your undergrad degree as far as that. So that could be another avenue that you use South Florida State College to use to get your BA as far as that. So definitely higher education is necessary. I'm kind of on the fence about going for my master's. I want to as far as that, but again, school is not cheap. But by all means, if it is in your cards, keep going further as far as that. But I've been able to pretty much get through what I need to as far as that with just my BA. I do have other certifications as far as that I've gotten through Mid-Florida, and I've gotten outside of Mid-Florida as well. So like I said, the emphasis of continuing to learn is my biggest point there. whether you're in college or not in college, always continue to learn, because that way it promotes you forward in life as far as that.
Can you name any barriers that you had to overcome while pursuing your career?
Barriers, man, I mean, it was a lot, even with college, just going through, just getting to this point. I would say for anyone, our biggest barriers are ourselves. Our minds are one of our biggest barriers that we seem to forget to even acknowledge. We like to point out other factors as far as that, but most of the time it's how we think. I think once I changed my way of thinking, a lot of my barriers kind of took care of themselves. Not saying I didn't face adversity, 'cause I did face situations where, just like life in general, things pop up, things come out unexpected as far as that, and you have to deal with them at that point. But a lot of my hinders and things that kind of held me back was my own self-doubt, worry, and this different things as far as that mentally, that we were to put those things aside and just move and just progress forward, we will get to our goal a lot sooner as far as that. So I always tell folks, even I'll tell myself to this day, hey, you're okay. Take it with a grain of salt and keep moving forward. That's the biggest thing. Progression, always move forward. No matter what hits you, knocks you down, you get back up, dust yourself off, and move forward, because that will get you to your goal. If you stop, you can't get to your goal. Definitely, if you go back, you won't get to your goal as far as that. So definitely always move forward. As far as, again, barriers, not too many barriers. Again, everybody's life is different, to each his own. It's different things that happen. But to get my degree, as far as that, didn't go to too many barriers. That wasn't mentally on my own. Again, once I got past that point of it, I was fine. Everything kind of fell in place. Again, life happens, but again, as long as you have the mental capacity to, hey, push forward, you'll be fine. You're gonna take everything grain of salt and just keep moving forward at that point.
What advice can you share with these young men when it comes to dealing with finance in general?
Never stop asking questions. Finance is a tricky topic because, again, it's personal. So a lot of folks don't like to talk about their finances as far as that, and I understand that, because, again, it's one of those things where it does expose a lot about yourself and a lot of your habits as far as that. But definitely never stop asking questions. Always ask questions. Try to learn as much as possible in the shortest time frame that you have as far as that. On top of that, too, talk to people, get mentors, ask questions, see who's out there that has information as far as that. A lot of times people don't have that educational background in finance. So, I mean, you can't go to the baker and talk about finance. Go to an actual banker. Come to someone like myself or one of my colleagues, or somebody who has been in that field for a long time. Go to the actual source. No dig at parents at all, but a lot of our parents don't have that financial education. Like my parents, I love them to pieces, but I wasn't taught finances by my parents. I went to school, and that's why I learned the core finances. I will say I wish we can do more on the high school side of financing, because of the fact that I think they'll benefit most from there. So you guys definitely, if you have a finance teacher, pick his brain, get in there deep and figure out what you want to learn. Even if it's something you won't use, just have that knowledge there, because I promise you later in life you will face it in some way, shape, or form as far as that. Even if you don't, you have that information there that you can pass on to another individual as far as that. So always learn. The finances is a ever-changing thing. I mean, every day something new pops up. Look into current events. I mean, just kind of see what's going on around the world, around you personally in finances. That way you can kind of know when something comes up, you're kind of ahead of the ball there, and it's not a cultural shock to you as far as that.
When these young men earn their first paycheck or financial aid refund, what would you recommend they do with it? Is it go out and buy the J's or the new rims, or what are we looking at?
We talked about this last year as far as that. I asked a lot of kids, like, if they had $1 million, what did they do with it? And some folks say, hey, I'll take some, save it, put it away, I invest it, or and I have my few that say, hey, I'm going to buy a new car, all the new shoes as far as that. So realistically, I always tell folks, enjoy your money, but be smart about it. Always pay yourself first. I have two sons, 9 and a 4-year-old, and they both understand. Not so much the 4-year-old, he's still in his spending phase, but my 9-year-old definitely understands the pay yourself first aspect of it. So anything he earns, anything he makes, he pays himself 10% of it off the top. Boom, pays himself first, and then after that, he spends the other money as far as that. you got to start from somewhere. So in a sense, with that, those refund checks and different things that you get in life, pay yourself first, put some money aside, build your nest egg. So again, start young. That way, you're saving 10% at the age of 14, 15. Once you get up to college years, up your age, you have a nice little savings account set up to where if you wanted to, hey, start your own business, put a down payment on a vehicle, put a down payment on a house. I mean, whatever you want to do, you have the funds there, so you're not going to asking anybody else for it. Now, granted, we can get more details as far as using banks for leverage, but at least you have that security there for yourself to say, hey, this is mine. I'll take this up. Now I can do what I want with it. By all means, again, enjoy yourself, but definitely pay yourself first. You have to take care of yourself first. So put something back. So where if something happens, you have something to fall back on. Because when you spend all that money and then something comes up and you can't fall back on anything, now that's when you run into issues as far as finances, taking out payday loans. There's different things as far as that can cause so much other trouble. Had you just took the 10%, 20%, put it away, forgot about it, and then kept putting to that pile. Once you pay attention to that pile will be bigger than anything you already took in from that check initially, as far as that. But again, it just happens over time. Remember, it all adds up. As long as you don't take from it, it'll continuously add up as far as that. So definitely save and pay yourself first.
Why is it so important to make smart financial decisions early?
The earlier, the better, because once you get into those good finance habits, it makes life itself somewhat easier. Money doesn't solve everything, but it does help a lot of things as far as that. So as long as you have a continuously flow of it, you can pretty much kind of work your way through life pretty good. From a financial point, I would tell you now, people with a lot of money still struggle because they have bad habits. They have terrible spending habits to the point where it almost makes them broke in a sense as far as that. So definitely getting those good spending habits early definitely gets you into a path of being financially secure. The biggest thing is developing a habit. That's probably the hardest part, because once you start saving, you'll see your savings at $100. That's no money as far as that. But don't look at it that way. Hey, look, this is my first investment into myself, and start putting them up, because then down the road, you'll see now I went from 100 to now I'm at 1,000. Now I'm at 2,000. Now it's starting to make some sense. Then once you get into the I call it the game of it, you start making your money work for you. Now you're making your money make money for you as far as that. We call that I call it sleep money. The money you don't have to work for as far as that. So once you get that going, as far as you start seeing the power of money. So developing those habits at an early age, they're vital. Again, I'm 29 now. I really got into finances when I was a senior in college. That's when I finished my final accounting courses as far as that. And even my accounting professor was like, hey, this part of the class, I'm going to teach you guys about how to survive in life. About interest rates, about paying bills, about student loans in particular, which is crazy, because we'll give an 18-year-old, thousands of dollars to go to school, but we won't set them up on how to pay those back, because again, you have to pay those funds back as far as that. So without that financial literacy there, it causes a big gap, causes a big issue when it comes down to, hey, all right, you finished school, now you have this amount of money to give us back. Now you're looking at this number like, hey, what's all these numbers, what's these percentages? And they don't know, which causes more and more problems as far as that. So definitely learning those things early. Again, most of our parents didn't have that financial education coming up. They kind of did what was best, and they made it work eventually as far as that. Now that there's so much information out there, please seek people like myself or anybody that that deep their business day by day is finances. Seek those people, talk to them, and get the information early. Yeah, you're 16, 17 years old. Yeah, it might not seem like something that you need to grasp now, but please listen to me. Grasp it now. So now when you up in age, it's second nature to you. You don't have to think about, hey, how should I set myself up to move? Let me just take care of my usual routine, and I'm all good to go as far as that. Everything kind of falls in place for you. So develop those habits early, and you'll be fine.
You touched a little bit on credit and management of money and things like that. Can you explain or elaborate a little bit more on how credit and credit scores impact an individual?
Man, credit is actually sometimes I feel like it's more important than money, truth be told, because I've seen it all, man. I've seen people come in here with crazy amounts of money, and then credit it's just trashed, and I can't help them because the credit is bad as far as that. So, yeah, you might have a lot of liquid funds as far as that, but if your credit is not good, then that kind of kills you on a lot of deals as far as that. So I would say credit is king. Definitely learn about credit. Again, come see me at Mid-Florida. I talk about it every day as far as that. The best thing about you guys being so young, you don't have any credit. So you don't have to clean up anything. Now you're just building from zero, from ground, building up. So now you're going to build a solid foundation and build yourself up. A lot of folks come into the situation where they establish credit, they, in a sense, ruin it, and I have to build it back up. Now it can be fixed, yes, but to build, I'd rather start from scratch and build up on all good stuff than to try to fix all the bad stuff first and then build. So it just makes it a little harder as far as that. So definitely, credit is king. Never forget that right there, because without great credit or a decent credit, it's hard to get car loans. It's hard to get houses. It's hard to get credit cards. It's hard to get a lot of things in life that are necessities when you guys start having families down the road. When you start having those things as far as that. Now, in regard to that, now there are places, I know you see the commercials, hey, good credit, bad credit, doesn't matter as far as that, we'll finance you. Yes, they will finance you. Yes, I promise you they will finance you, but you will have such a high interest rate that it'll take you forever to pay off whatever you're financing. That's the other side of the coin. So yeah, you see a lot of people say, hey, don't worry about your credit, we'll still finance you. Yes, they will, but what they're hitting you with behind the scenes is ridiculous as far as that. So I always tell folks, again, teach his own. Some situations are kind of dire need where you have to take those bad financing deals because of whatever's going on in your life at that point in time. But if you can prevent it, by all means, take care of your credit early. Again, once you guys turn 18, your credit's technically active at that point because you're an adult. Come see me and I will show you the guidelines of what to do to kind of get your credit started at that point, and then how to keep it going good. That way there's no issues down the road. So when you do come out of college, you have a nice over 700 credit score, you can pretty much do what you want to do financially at that point. Banks will like you. I love you as far as that, so I can help you guys out. But we can make things work as far as that for you. Definitely keep credit in mind. It's very, very serious.
What is a common question that is frequently asked by young men today?
Common question is I get a lot of them, man. I guess pretty much is sometimes like, do I get bored with what I do or anything as far as that? God, it's kind of repetitive as far as that. But me personally, no, because I like what I do. I meet a lot of people. I impact a lot of lives. It's just one of those things where it's not about the figure of it. It's about seeing that person in front of you come in with an issue and then leave satisfied or leave smiling. I've had people cry. I almost bring me to tears at that time because again, something that seemed small to me was major to them, and I was able to help them with that situation as far as that. So that's why that's probably my biggest question. Like, hey, like, does it ever get boring? And no, I mean, you have your slow days as far as that, but a lot of the stuff we do here is meaningful. Again, just to see those even kids, man. I mean, it's just to see people really impacted and seeing how they went from one stage to the next. Definitely does something for you. It keeps me going as far as that. That's probably my biggest there. Second biggest question I would say is like the money side of it. Yes, we deal with a lot of money. I've had my hands on a lot of bills here. It is nerve-wracking at sometimes counting all that money out as far as that. Trust me, it's not the most comfortable feeling, but you get past it after a while as far as that. But yes, we dealt with some high figures here. It just comes with the job as far as that.
Lastly, do you have any last minute words of advice you'd like to leave with these young men today?
Biggest thing I hit on earlier: never stop learning. Again, college it's not the route for everyone. But I will tell you, if you're not going to take the college route, please keep learning. If you are taking the college route, please keep learning. Don't stop learning. The mind is so powerful, and you have so much power up there, definitely, that you can accomplish anything. I mean, by all means, not to sound cliche, but it's true. Don't sell yourself short. Get out of your own way. That's why I told you again, are we standing in front of ourselves a lot? Get out of your own way. There's enough things out there in life that can hinder you, that you don't need to stand in front of your own way to do those things as far as that. And sometimes, I mean, you have to pick yourself up. You have to pat yourself on the back. You have to pull yourself together and push forward as far as that, because it requires those things to get to the next stage in life. But definitely the biggest point, never stop learning. Whether you're reading books, podcasts, whatever the case would be, asking questions, never stop learning. Don't be embarrassed to learn. I know a lot of folks kind of get shameful raising their hands. I ever heard my son even say, hey, you know, I didn't want to ask the question. I'm like, why? I mean, it's your education. You want to know. Raise your hand and ask that question. Anybody that laughs or have an issue with you ask questions, that's on them, because you want to make sure you got the information solid and you know it, so you can go ahead and act on it and get to that next one as far as that. And I mean, and all, just be happy, enjoy yourself, enjoy the progress, enjoy the process as far as that. I wish we could have did this in person. I enjoyed you guys last year. Definitely appreciate you guys having me back on. Need me again next year. I'm your man for it. Just give me a call. But definitely, yeah, you guys keep going, keep pushing through, keep thriving, and you'll be all right.
Okay. My name is Andy Polk. I am originally from Lake Wales. Graduated from Lake Wales High School. In 2003, I came to South Florida State College to play baseball. In the fall of 2003, I played here for 2004 and 2005. Graduated, went to Florida Southern, and then ended up finishing my career in college and graduated from Weber International University. Left there and signed a professional baseball contract, played professional baseball for a couple years, traveled the country doing that. And then in between my first and second year of pro ball, I came back and started coaching baseball here at South Florida State College. Coached here from fall of 2007 until spring of 2016. Left South Florida State College and coached at Weber International from spring of 2017 or fall of 2016. Coached the spring of 2017 until spring of 2020. And then I came back to South Florida State College, and I'm coaching here baseball again. I work in student services. I'm the coordinator of student life here. So I'm in charge of clubs, intramurals, events, things of that nature, as well as teaching as an adjunct and running my own personal online like strength coaching business. Been active in sports basically my whole life, mostly baseball throughout my young life. And then I've kind of been involved in some other sporting stuff personally and coaching since about 2012. So kind of involved in the educational side of things, also involved in the student services side of things, but my passion has always been coaching and athletics and competition. So that's a little bit about myself.
Could you share some insight on academics and athletics?
Sure. I think they go hand in hand. Number one, you don't have one without the other. When people look at sports, they always think that athletics is the most important thing. And I can certainly identify with that because that's how I felt when I was 17 to 22 years old. I was fortunate enough to be able to get it done in the classroom without the effort that I probably should have put in. But without, the accountability academically, number one, you're not going to be able to play sports. Number two, you're not going to be recruitable, coming into college and then making grades in order to play. And then if you don't take care of it academically, your goals beyond, if it's a junior college you're at, just speaking from that perspective, because that's where I recruit now. And then when I did recruit at the four-year school level, the first question that you ask guys is what kind of student are they and what kind of person are they? So without the academic accountability and the success in the classroom, what you can do on the field is limited, and people are not you're going to have a hard time making people believe that, you're serious as an athlete if you are not in a good place academically or accountable academically.
What should student athletes expect when attending college?
That's a broad question. I would say more of everything that they expected in high school, or that they understood in high school. Practices are going to be more. You're going to practice more often. You're going to play more often. It's going to require more extra work on the field. It's going to be earlier mornings and later nights. It's going to be more time on the bus. You're going to play more road games in college than you played games in total in high school, which means you're going to be getting home at 11 o'clock. I mean, just to give you an example, an average week for us is, we're going to play 2 games at home and 2 games on the road. It's going to be Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday. 2 of those games, we're going to, the home games are going to finish at 9 o'clock by the time you get dinner and get in bed. 10:30, 11 o'clock, that's without homework. You're going to be at the field for basically 7 hours that day. And then we're on the road, depending upon how long the trip is. I mean, we're getting home anywhere from 10 to 11:30 or 12, and that's on a school night. And you're expected to be at class the next day with regards to the classroom stuff, probably going to spend less time in the classroom, but it's going to require double the time outside the classroom, and the accountability is going to be on you. Nobody's going to be, you know, giving you extensions on tests because you're a nice kid. Nobody's going to be reminding you things on a regular basis. You're going to be expected to conduct yourself as an adult. You're going to be expected to ask for help on your own or seek that out as an adult, and not have somebody, you know, hunting you down to do that. You know, and you're going to be expected to spend a lot of time on your own outside of the classroom, learning and reinforcing and studying and making sure that you're, you know, comfortable with all the material within the class. And that's going to be on you more so than it probably was in high school. And everything is just going to be more. It's going to be harder in all phases, and it's going to require more of your own work, and it's going to require kind of more of your own initiative to take it into your own hands to take care of things.
Please share your knowledge or experience pertaining to the hopes of someone going pro.
Well, that's a good question. You know, the whole thing with professional athletics, and my experience has been in the baseball world, but you know, and there's a lot more professional baseball players in the world than there is any other professional sport, because, you know, that every team has a AAA team, a AA team, a high A team, a short season team, a low A team, and a rookie ball team or two, plus guys that are in extended spring training and guys that are playing at academies, you know, in Latin America. So there's a lot of different people that play professional baseball. You know, my experience is that you're extremely lucky if you even get an opportunity. You know, I've always said from a baseball standpoint, I mean, you know, you go to a town like Avon Park, Sebring, Lake Wales, you know, there's 600 kids who play Little League in that town with 1 year. You know, that's whittled down over the next 10 or 12 years to where there's 20 people on a high school baseball team. Maybe 2 of those guys go to play college baseball. You know, maybe 1 of those guys plays college baseball for all 4 years. And maybe 1 guy off every college team, maybe probably closer to a half of a guy, you know, off every college baseball team plays professional baseball. And then if you go to a rookie ball team and professional baseball, maybe 1 of those guys on a professional baseball team is going to play in the big leagues. And then maybe 1 guy on a big league team is going to actually make a career out of it. And that's one thing that I've always wanted to say to people. You know, people think you go play in the big leagues and you've made it. And, you know, in a lot of ways you have, because you've beaten every single odd at every single turn and every corner, and you've been extremely lucky. Whose kids are never going to have to worry about money. Most people who play in the big leagues are going to have to get another job, you know, and that's where education comes in. And that's where, like, you know, if you're in college, you need to do well and need to try and complete that. And if you go play professional baseball, you need to continue working on, or professional sports, you need to continue working on that degree, or you need to get that degree factored into your contract so you can go back out and finish that degree, because the chances of you playing professionally is less than 1%. And the chances of you making it to where you never have to have another job as long as you live is less than that. So that's something that I try and really get across to people, that, you know, the game's going to end for everybody, and you need to be in a good position when it does, because even if you end at the highest level of our sport or your sport, your chances of you know, not having to ever have another job and live comfortably the rest of your life is very, very low. And the other thing that I've always said to people, and this is easier to do with a room full of, you know, athletes, is, you know, I ask them, I say, how hard do you think it is to be a doctor? And most people are like, well, it's really hard. It requires 8 years of school. Yeah, absolutely. Being a doctor is really hard. I couldn't do it. You know, it requires a lot of intelligence, a lot of hard work, a lot of dedication. How hard is it to be a lawyer? Equally as hard, right? And I said, well, how many doctors do you know? How many doctors are there in Avon Park, Florida, where there's 40 or 50? How many lawyers? Throw a rock, you know, when you're driving down the road and you hit a law office, right? Well, how many shortstops are there? How many point guards are there? How many quarterbacks are there? Well, there's 30 some odd, because every team's got 1, right? So, like, you've already admitted how difficult it is to be a doctor or a lawyer, or something that requires a lot of, you know, intelligence and hard work and ambition and this, that, and the other, you know, and you know 50 of them. Well, there's 30. There's less shortstops in the country. There's less quarterbacks, less point guards, less centers. Pick it. There's less of those in the country than there are doctors in Avon Park. So that should give you an indication of how difficult it is to be one of the best in the world at that position. You know, and for me, that should tell you that you know, education is really important, because even those guys, even the starting shortstop for the Yankees, man, the chances of him never having to have another job as long as he lives is very low. So that catapults education to the forefront for me, and just having guys take care of that.
So you've kind of mentioned as far as using athletics as a tool. Can you elaborate on that a little bit more as far as how it can possibly impact life going forward?
Sure. And I don't want to, sorry, I had to clear a notice on there. I didn't mean to stick my hand on the phone. I don't want to be the guy that sounds like I'm anti-athletics. My entire life has been athletics. And God willing, I'll retire from a coaching job and be helping students from the ages of 18 to 25 or maybe a little bit younger for the rest of my life, because that's my passion. And I think athletics does something for people that very few things in this life do. And I'm the biggest proponent of that. But with that being said, it is a tool, and it's a tool in a couple areas. Number one, it's a tool for life lessons. I think you learn life lessons being an athlete. I think that coaching is an avenue to teach lessons of life for people. I think they learn how to, you always hear, well, hey, employers like to hire athletes because they do certain things. I'm going to touch on those things. What do they do? Well, generally they're hard workers because they have to work hard in order to be good at their sport. They're used to putting in extra time. They're used to putting in time. They're used to overcoming adversity. They're used to being a part of a team, which is a really big thing, because, most jobs now, the team lingo is a big part of that. So it's a tool to learn all those things and to make yourself much more valuable with regards to those things. But I also say it's a tool to get your education. If you can get some dollars put in your bank account to help you offset some costs, it's a tool to get education. Use that. Absolutely use that. Use that as a tool. Get the most out of that. Use that as a tool to get your 4 years of education and offset some of those costs. Use that as a tool to learn life lessons for learning how to work hard, to overcome adversity, and most of all, to be a positive member of a team. And the last one, and it doesn't really apply to this, but it's something that I've gotten a great deal out of, is use it to see the country and travel and learn more about the world. One thing about a lot of sports is you learn how to get along with people that grew up in a different place than you did. Maybe they're from somebody different, a different part of the country or a different part of the world. Maybe they speak a different language, or maybe their first language is a different language. Maybe they, their parents did something different than your parents did. They have different world experiences than you have. And with regards to that, man, I think that's an awesome thing about sports, because you learn how to get along with people because you have to, because you're a part of a team, and when you get in the workforce, you're going to have to learn how to get along with people that, didn't grow up around on the same street that you did, going to the same church, eating dinner at the same places with the same parents who do the same job. And you're going to have to be able to get along with that. And that creates value in your life. And that makes you a more employable person and somebody that can do a better job for people. So I suggest that you get the most out of that as you can. And the more that you can get out of all of that, the better off you're going to be. So absolutely put everything you can into sports, because you're never going to get that time back. And when you get to be my age, in your mid-30s, you're going to wish and be grasping to any part of competitiveness or team aspect that you can get in your life. And you don't realize how quickly that gets away from you. And I'm sure you'd say the same, Rob. But what I take away for it more than anything is the lessons that it taught me and the person that it turned me into being because of all of those things, hard work and life lessons and, culturing me and getting me, to be a part of a team and understand that it's not just about me. It's what I can bring to everybody else, what value I can create on everybody else as a part of the team, even if I'm not having my best day. So, I suggest you use it as a tool for all of those things, but most of all, I did it and I didn't even know it, because I made decent grades in college just because I didn't want to be ineligible academically. And I probably would have not made as good of a grades and probably extended or not even completed college if it wouldn't have been for sports, because the only reason that kept me making good grades was just trying to stay eligible term to term. And by the time I was done, I had 5 more classes to take, and it cost me a little bit of money, and I completed my 4-year degree, and I was basically done with no debt. And I didn't even realize that was happening for me until after the fact. So I believe it's a tool with regards to that as well.
What are some words of encouragement you would like to leave with these young men today?
I'm not the best motivational guy in the world, because, I think that motivation in a lot of ways is a bogus thing. I think more so than anything, you need to make a decision as to what you want to do on the field, and you need to kind of picture that end goal in mind, and then you just find out where you're at, and everything in between that is just, it's static. And it's whether it's early mornings or weight rooms or watching film or doing something that you don't like to do with regards to your skill on the field or your craft. You got to do those things to be better. Academics is a part of that, because you're no good to your teammates if you don't make grades, and you're no good to yourself or that end goal. Like if your end goal is to be a professional athlete and you're not ready now, well, that means you got to buy yourself more time, and you buy yourself more time by being a good student, getting into a school and continuing to work hard, and then continuing to be in a good place academically, so that you can continue to work and continue to compete and prove yourself and hopefully get that opportunity to play in pro ball. So, I can tell you that, the motivation and stuff like that can be bogus, but the most important thing, in my opinion, is just the discipline to do the things that you need to do. I think most athletes know what those things are. Most coaches remind them, but just make sure that, you're doing something on a daily basis that's getting you closer to your goal on the field and getting yourself closer to a goal off the field with regards to academic accountability and putting yourself in a position moving forward that you're, recruitable and eligible and able to continue to play. Because I can promise you guys that the quickest way to get your name crossed off a list or sit home from a college is to, number one, be a bad student, and number two, be a bad representative, be a bad person, not be somebody that they don't trust to represent that institution, that program, and your teammates and your coaches and your family. All of those things are extremely important. And the more, the better you can do with those things, the better off you're going to be. And the last thing that I'll say is, this is something that I say to our players all the time is, the actual play, like hitting a 3-point shot with somebody guarding you is hard. Catching a pass with somebody's is guarding you is hard. Throwing a ball down the field and dropping it in between two defenders is difficult. Hitting a fastball or throwing a breaking ball in the outside corner or what have you, that's very, very difficult. That's a performance thing, and that takes a lot of skill, and there's a lot of things that go into that. But showing up to class, doing your schoolwork, being prepared for tests, showing up to practice on time, knowing what you're supposed to do, being a great teammate, those things are easy to do. That doesn't mean you're going to get all A's and you're going to be the best player in the world, but those things are very easy to do. And the more of those easy things that you can do really well on a regular basis, the better chance you're going to have to impact the game when you get the opportunity to, because you're going to feel better. And even if you don't impact the game, by throwing a great pass or hitting a clutch three or something like that, you're still going to have impacted the game in a positive manner, or your teammates in a positive manner, by doing all those other things well. So I would suggest that you do, be the best person that you can every day, be the best student that you can, be the best teammate that you can, and work as hard as you can, and then just enjoy yourself and let the chips fall where they may on the field of play. But, unfortunately, and I was the same way, everybody puts, the most importance on what happens in the moment, in that 5 minutes when you have a chance to impact the game on the field, and they forget about all the other things, that you can do on a daily basis to make your team, yourself, your school, and your teammates and your coaches better, and impact the success with regards to that. So that's something that I really try and help our guys with and talk to them about on a regular basis, because I think it makes all the difference in the world.
Hello, I'm Officer Howard, Florida Fish and Wildlife. I'm the Southwest Region Recruiter. I represent the Division of Law Enforcement for Florida Fish and Wildlife in the Southwest Region, all the way up to Hernando County, down to Collier County, and out towards Lakeland. That triangle is kind of my scope of responsibility when it comes to recruiting efforts. The typical day for an FWC officer and what we really do is anything that has to do with hunting, fishing, boating safety, wildlife, or environmental crimes. Also captive wildlife, disaster response. That's our bread and butter. That's what we do. But we are sworn state law enforcement officers, so we handle any kind of crime or criminal activity that comes our way. Yes, we can pull over cars on the road and write traffic tickets. Yes, we do arrest people for shoplifting if we see it, if we're there in the presence. But our bread and butter, the main thing that we focus on, is conservation and conservation law enforcement. It's a great career, and it's one that I've been a part of for the last 12 years. And I'm very proud of my agency and what we stand for and what we do.
Thank you. As a high school student, how would I be able to get in your particular job field?
As a high school student, it's very difficult to roll just from high school into the Florida Fish and Wildlife, because we have a tremendous amount of applicants that want to do our job. The job sells itself. We give you a truck, a gun, and a boat, and a four-wheeler. Almost every kid in Florida would like that. During a normal application period, FWC recruiters work with around 4,000 applicants. From those 4,000 applicants, we get roughly 2,500 qualified applications on file. Things happen during the application process. Maybe they get picked up by another department. Maybe they do something else. Maybe they change their mind. But we usually run at least 1,000 through the physical assessment, the swim, and we interview probably around 700 of those 1,000. So, and that's for 30 or 40 spots statewide. So it's very, very competitive. What you can do is get a higher education. We're a education preference employer. So that definitely helps you whenever you're walking into that interview room. You can also go to the military. We're a veterans preference employer. That gives you additional life skills and preparation for a career like this, and additional points going into an interview. So those are two of the main things that I could say would help a 19-year-old trying to get a job like this. It would be your preparation, working on that resume.
What led you to pick your career field?
Okay, so I was about 25 years old, 26 years old. Linda and I had just had a kid, and I had a good job, but it wasn't a job that I was particularly enjoying. It had good benefits. It had a good retirement. If I would have stayed there, I was working for Reedy Creek Environmental District in Orlando, but it didn't have that. It didn't have any excitement, actually. It didn't have that team feel of sports and growing up playing sports. You know, you have teammates, you have camaraderie. Didn't have that. It was just a job to go to work. And I wanted to do something exciting with my life. I was still young enough to do something exciting. So I was like, you know what? I think I'm going to go into law enforcement. I never got caught doing all the bad stuff that I was doing when I was a kid. So I was still eligible, and I put in for it. Didn't get the job initially, had to reapply, go back through the process again. And then eventually I got the job. You know, what drew me to the Florida Fish and Wildlife was the conservation nature of it, you know, deciding which kind of law enforcement officer I want to be. Because I've always been a truck guy. I love trucks. I've always been into fishing, love fishing in the outdoors, four-wheelers, all the toys that Florida Fish and Wildlife has at your disposal that you have to use, that they want you to use, that you're required to use to get the job done. That's pretty much what led me to this position.
What does your work day consist of?
The work day, for me, I won't talk about my particular work day because that's not what people get into this job for, is to be a recruiter and be in one of those administrative roles. So I'll just tell you, the work day of a field officer, a guy in uniform that's pulling a boat or jumping on a four-wheeler every day, their day depends on where they're at locally and the needs and the geography and the topography of their county of assignment. So our officers are assigned by county all over the state of Florida. And again, what they do is going to reflect where they're located. So if you're in the Keys, you're going to be on a boat, and your day to day and what you're doing that day is going to be determined by kind of what you're targeting, what kind of boat you're on. You're going to be on a large boat, a 26-foot and greater boat that's going offshore, patrolling federal waters. Or are you going to be in a smaller boat, something probably under 19 foot, rolling in some skinny backwoods waters? Or are you going to be in a bay boat just doing general patrol? You know, if you're in a place like Highlands County, where you guys are at, there's not a lot of water, man. You're going to be in a truck, you're going to be on a four-wheeler, you're going to be walking, depending on the season and what's going on. You might be walking across some private property looking for turkey bait. You might be working in a state forest or a wildlife management area. If you're in a position like Lake County, you're probably going to be on an aluminum boat handling freshwater fisheries for a lot of the time. And if you're in a place like the greater Tampa Bay, probably in a bay boat, doing some general Bay Area patrols.
What are some words of encouragement that you would like to leave with our Minority Male Initiative group?
Words of encouragement. You know, I would say the thing that I meet or the thing that I find the most effective when it comes to recruiting and people getting a job is their passion for the position. If you have passion, it leads you to go above and beyond, and it helps you get there. You know, the people that kind of just put in an application and then they call and they talk to you or whatever, they're just, you know, just a number. The guy that really wants it, it shines through and they end up getting the position. So lead with passion.
Hi, I'm Lieutenant Tyrone Tyson. I serve as a law enforcement officer for Highlands County Sheriff's Office, where I have been in my current capacity for approximately 25 years. In law enforcement, 22 of those years have been here at the Highlands County Sheriff's Office. While working here at the Highlands County Sheriff's Office, I have personally wore many hats and conducted many various duties and responsibilities, starting from patrol to promotion to the school resource unit, where I served as a drill instructor. From there, I went to criminal investigations and conducted property crimes. Later, advanced to person crimes, where I worked robberies and homicides. And then I did all of the above as a supervisor as well. And then I spent a large portion of my career working narcotics. So I've wore many, many hats at the Highlands County Sheriff's Office. I found the Sheriff's Office to be a very rewarding career, especially for someone that was suited like myself, going directly into the employment field out of high school, had the opportunity to join an agency, start with a very decent salary, and then continue my education and prepare myself for promoting up through the chain in this career that has been designated as law enforcement. Some of the great perks and benefits are not only you have a starting pay scale for this area that's really competitive and really decent, you also have a sliding pay scale here at the Highlands County Sheriff's Office for the first 2 years of service. So you have an entry-level pay and you're guaranteed to advance on that pay scale for the first 10 years of service. So in addition to that, the Highlands County Sheriff's Office has many other benefits, such as being part of the Florida State retirement system. When you start with us, you automatically become a member of that system, and you have two options: an investment plan or the pension plan. We also offer 112 hours of annual leave, 112 hours of sick leave, 11 paid holidays, on-call pay. You get a paid $15,000 life insurance policy, health, dental, vision plans, and tuition reimbursement. Now, some of the qualifiers for this job is you must be at least 19 years old, have a high school diploma or GED, a valid driver's license, be a person of good moral character, and pass a drug, background, and polygraph test. Since I've been in law enforcement, I've had the opportunity to advance due to hard work and continuing education. I've had opportunity to experience many, many things and work with many other agencies and personnel and staff on some of the most vital and critical cases that one can work.
You mentioned tuition reimbursement. Why is it important for a student to seek a higher education in your particular career field?
The higher education, because quite frankly, law enforcement is changing. Law enforcement, I think it might still be classified as a laborer career, but it is now quickly becoming a profession. And almost everywhere you go in any law enforcement agency, you've got to have more education. Well, one, you're gonna always have continuing education, continue training, because everything you do involves some level of risk and exposure for yourself in the agency. So the agency will definitely train you to be efficient at your job. But if you absolutely have the ambition to promote and go forward in life, you've got to get that higher education, because most places require that, but to make that first level of advancement, at least a 2-year degree. Some agencies require a 4-year degree to have that first level. And plus, higher education is going to only make you better, because the more knowledge you have, the better person and deputy that you're going to be to serve your community.
What is something that you wish you knew prior to entering your career field?
Well, I won't say as much as I wish I would have knew prior to entering, but I wish I would have done was get my education prior to, because it was a lot harder trying to get it while you're working as a working adult. But it's very possible, and that's the benefit, the reason we add that benefit of tuition reimbursement, because you can actually go to school and you get paid for going to school. So knowing that that is a plus, but it's easier if you've got it already. But if not, if you want to just get started working like many of us need to or have to leaving high school, that benefit is there. So you can just buckle down and take advantage of that and go to school, work, and get your education at the same time.
Lastly, do you have any last minute advice that you would like to leave to these young men today?
I would definitely like to say this, especially speaking to our young Black and brown minority men. Law enforcement is a career, unfortunately, especially for our area, where many minorities don't get involved in. And here at the Highlands County Sheriff's Office, we have made a very concerted effort to find, recruit, and hire the talented people from within the community to come and serve here at home. And whether it's just the stigma or the job itself, we don't get a lot of people interested. So I point out two things, the advice I will point out. One being, if you ever have any reason to complain about what's going on in your neighborhood or what's happening or not happening, in order to see a problem or a situation change, you've got to be involved in it. So, for example, if you don't like the way your local law enforcement office operate, become part of that change. And the second thing is, when you think about the sheriff's office, like I said earlier, remember, it's not only sworn law enforcement and detention positions here. We employ 345 people, and most of those are civilians. So there are many other opportunities that you can do behind the scenes that make this organization go forward. So this is a great place to start a career. It's a great place to meet people and be a part of a team or organization that will support you and help build you and help you acquire a higher education.
And up next, we have our student panel.
All right, so name is Greg Rawlings. I graduated from Sebring High School. I also graduated from UCF with a 4-year degree in sport and exercise science, and I am currently working on my master's in kinesiology.
My name is Ricky Sherrill. I graduated from the Sebring High School too. I also graduated from South Florida with my AA degree, and then I moved over to Orlando, also to UCF, and I graduated in 2019 with the bachelor's in film.
My name is Christian Luvano. I graduated from Sebring High School, and I graduated with AA from South Florida State College.
All right, so I'm Rashad Thomas, and I graduated from Avon Park High School in 2014. I'm 24 years old right now. I currently work at Mid-Florida Credit Union, but I work in the mortgage office in Lakeland. So I live in Highlands County, but I'm always at work in Lakeland. So basically Polk County is where I stay, to be honest.
About South Florida State College and what made you decide to tenure?
I think I first learned about South Florida State College, truthfully, because they came to the high school that I was going to, Avon Park. I think they had like some kind of booth set up and they were telling us about it. And I mean, what made me interested in going there was just finances. I realized that I could save a lot more money if I just stayed in town, stayed at home. And I think it was one of the best decisions I've made education-wise, because I really did end up saving a lot of money, but I also ended up learning a lot of things that I didn't expect to learn. The experience was actually really great. From education to the people, it's just an all-around great campus.
Can you share your experience with applying for admissions and financial aid?
Admissions for me was simple. I mean, it wasn't the hardest thing to do. I believe they, if I'm not mistaken, y'all came to my high school and gave us like a application to fill out there, and then we turned it in there. Financial aid, however, was a different story. That was a headache for me and my mom because I didn't know nothing. My mom also didn't know anything. We had some help, obviously, because my sister started there, but we still had to go into the office, and they basically lined everything out for us and got everything set for us with the financial aid. But it wasn't that bad.
How would that compare to as far as applying to the university? if I may follow up with that?
For me, at least, applying for UCF was a lot worse just because I was still back home when I was doing it. So I was like, I didn't have the opportunity to just, oh, let me go to the office to talk to somebody to figure this out. So basically it was all the phone calls made, and paperwork had to be transferred and all this stuff. So it was a lot more tedious, but the application I would say is the same, but financial aid and all that other paperwork was a headache, especially for UCF.
How did you know which classes to register for each term, and where did you go for assistance if necessary?
I had no idea at first which classes I had to take, but luckily we have some really great counselors here and they helped me with every step of the way. And yeah, every term they kind of helped me get to where I needed to go.
Kindly share your experience with taking classes here at South Florida State College, and how have they compared to the classes you've taken at your major university?
I wasn't lucky enough to not have to take undergraduate courses when I got to UCF, just because of when you transfer over, there's some credits that they accept and don't accept. So I actually ended up having to retake a biology course. And then I think in just mine, and I talked to someone and they said ours was one of the smaller ones, but I mean, my biology lecture, my second year at UCF had like 650 kids in one room. So, I mean, going from like max 30 kids at South Florida and then coming to this where it's like 600 kids in just an auditorium. I didn't even know my professor's name, honestly. Like, you don't get any one-on-one time with them. They say, oh, here's the office hours. Come during this time. You go during that time. And then there's a line of like 80 kids trying to ask her about the same question on the last test. So it was, yeah, that was rough. I do not want to go through that again. But luckily with graduate courses, it's kind of similar to South Florida. I mean, the class I'm taking this semester has 10 kids. So it's all the same kids from every other class. So it's a lot more like South Florida was, which was, I would say for me personally, was a better environment for learning, just because I don't like not knowing things. Like if I take a test and get something wrong, I want to be able to talk to you and figure out, okay, why did I get it wrong, what the right answer is, et cetera. But at UCF, especially with some of the bigger courses, that wasn't really an option.
As a college student, what were some of the challenges that you faced, and how did you overcome those challenges?
For me, the moving process, having to leave something that I was comfortable with as far as like my family and friends, and coming to a whole different world per se, and having to know how to manage college, work, rent and stuff was like one of the biggest things for me. Eventually I got the hang of it, but I would say time management is probably the biggest thing that you would have to do, for me at least. Knowing that, okay, this is the amount of hours I need to work so I can have time to study for this and this and that. So my biggest challenge, but overcame it eventually, was like time management and knowing what to do as far as like my free time, study time, work time, things like that.
So I was the first in my family to ever attend college. So at least for my first almost semester and a half, I just was running around. I didn't know really anything about the college as far as like, registering for classes and what classes, how many credits each class was worth. But honestly, every time I got stumped, I just went to advising and counseling, and there was always someone there to help out and explain things. So, yeah.
When it comes to my career, the barriers that I had to overcome was, I feel like everybody at my age had to overcome it, but lack of experience, like work experience. Companies don't necessarily want to hire somebody with no experience. So coming into trying to get into the mortgage office, not really having any experience in banking or whatnot, kind of was one of the things that kind of like scared me, or kind of was just like kind of stopped me from moving into the mortgage office a little bit sooner. And then when it comes to my degree, the only thing that kind of prevented me, or only thing that was a barrier for me per se, was just like the level of procrastination that I like displayed, because I used to procrastinate with everything. I was late on everything. Like, I was just lazy, truthfully. So I kind of had to get out of my own head. I had to realize that I needed to get it together, or else I was going to get left behind. So for me, it was, when it came to my degree, it was more of a self thing. That was my barrier. Not necessarily like the work was too hard, but it's just because I always wanted to put things for later, you know? So that was one thing that I kind of had to overcome. Once I learned how to manage my time and take things a little bit more serious, then everything was basically smooth.
That was the most difficult thing, was figuring out how you're going to balance work with school, like Ricky said, and then on top of that, doing stuff to make sure you don't go insane. And then on top of that too, it was just when I first left and came up here, it was, you know, being on your own. You're free, you finally can do whatever you want. Nobody's like watching you, checking on you. So then it was like, it got to the point where, especially my first year at UCF, a lot of those classes are just like basic introductory courses that you don't really need to know. It's more or less you're just taking it to satisfy the needs of your program. And so there would be times where it's like, okay, nobody's going to tell me to go to class. Nobody's going to make sure I go to class. They're not taking attendance. So it was kind of like convincing myself, okay, even though nobody's checking on you, watching you, making sure you're doing this, you know, getting up every day and still taking care of what you need to get done, because at the end of the day, you're trying to build habits for later in life. So that was probably the hardest thing for me. It was just, when I first got up here, I was like, oh, I'm just going to play video games, go play basketball, go to the gym and do that. So yeah, trying to get the balance right, like Ricky said. It's finding like a good balance between taking care of your responsibilities, but also enjoying yourself.
Were you involved in any sports or clubs here at South Florida State College or at UCF? And kindly share any of your experiences.
So part of the basketball club at South Florida. And then as far as UCF, I mean, I was in a fraternity for one semester, but other than that, I didn't really do any clubs. But I mean, they have a ridiculous, especially up here at UCF, there's a ridiculous amount of clubs you can join. I mean, I know one of the clubs I saw like at least 3 times a week in a specific area. It's like a Super Smash Brothers club. If you want to just like show up to UCF, sit on a couch and play video games with a bunch of other kids, they do that. I mean, there's really anything you want. There's people that just walk around and look at nature. I'm sure like if you do enough searching on the UCF website, you can find clubs for anything really.
Wasn't involved in any sports or clubs really, but I did do the work study program, and that kind of got me in touch with the anime and gaming club when they were a thing. So yeah.
Can you elaborate a little bit more on the work study program? Like, what was it like?
Oh, so the work study was pretty great. I worked under Andy Pope, and basically if you're a student at South Florida, you can work under an instructor and actually get paid. And it's mostly, it depends on where you're working, but they know that you're a college student. So they work with your schedule, and just a really good time. If you get a chance to do it, I'd recommend it for sure.
For me, my experience from just going to the classes, the work studies, even some of the activities that they had, like college week, all that stuff was actually really, really good. The clubs that I took part in, like, you know, the basketball club and just the various different things. They had different events all the time, like Latin month or Latin week. And of course, they really celebrated Black History Month a lot. So it was actually really cool. Just a lot of different things took place at this college that I really wasn't expecting when I first came here, but I think it was pretty okay, pretty cool.
What are your career goals after not after South Florida State College, because I know you're attending UCF, but what are your career goals after UCF?
Or you can go on that one.
So currently I'm in my last semester of my master's program. And then after that, I'm applying to UCF's physical therapy program. So hopefully when it's all said and done, I will be a physical therapist.
And for me, with this whole, life's changed for a lot of people, everybody pretty much. So my plan was to go off. I had, I believe it was sometime last year, I had applied for a couple internships and stuff in Atlanta, but you know, unfortunate events happened. So that was kind of postponed. So right now, I'm currently full-time at Publix. Right now, I recently got full-time, maybe like a year ago or so. So I'm trying to make my way up to corporate if I can, see what I can get my foot in the door with them, and then maybe go to their film crew in that company, sticking with Publix. So that's the plan, but you know, anything can happen nowadays.
So currently I'm actually working here at South Florida as a STEM coach, which is science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And I mean, I just started here, but there's a lot to learn. So right now I'm just trying to learn the basics of the entire program.
As a high school student, how do I get into your job field or your career field?
All right, so as a high school student, once you graduate high school, truthfully, becoming a banker or going into the bank field, it's kind of really simple. You just apply. I mean, you would have to start off at an entry level. Of course, you would become a teller. Tellers don't have to have any formal, like any form of college education. As long as you have a high school diploma or a GED, you qualify to become a teller, and that's where I started off as. So I was a teller for a year, and then now I work in the mortgage office, which requires some sort of degree. But truthfully, just to get into the banking system, you would just need a high school diploma. So once you get a high school diploma, as long as you know the basics, how to read, write, do basic math, kind of follow instructions, then it's actually really simple just to get into the banking area.
As far as the standards, is there something that was set or that kind of clicked as like, hey, this is how I need to be prepared for these meetings? Or were you kind of told, all right, well, hey, you need to wear a shirt and tie, so on and so forth? Was there standards already set, or did you see those somewhere?
Well, from the initial jump, even before I got into the corporate office, you notice that people in the higher ups, they don't dress any and every type of way. So for instance, somebody who's on the teller line, like an entry level position in the banking, they may get away with certain things. Or you may see certain things that you may see somebody, you know, get away with, like being dressed a certain way, like their shirt's not ironed, or, you know, they're, I don't know, just the presentation, the way they present themselves is not. But then when you see somebody from the corporate office, it's just like they always have on a tie. Every time they come to visit, always have on a tie. They're always well dressed. Either they have on a jacket, a sports coat, or you know, it's something of that sort. So then when I actually got to the corporate office, I kind of already knew what to expect, how to dress. You know, I couldn't wear certain things, and then they did give guidelines to say, okay, in certain meetings we do require you to wear ties, or we do require you to wear long sleeves. For instance, even like if you had tattoos, they had to be covered. So that was guidelines. Even facial hair. When we talk about facial hair, you don't just get to walk into like a corporate meeting with just your hair everywhere, you know, unbrushed, uncombed. Everybody, no matter what gender, what race, you had to come with a level of professionalism. So when I got into the corporate level and I started working for the corporate office, one of the requirements were, and it's in the procedures, not in the procedures, it's in the, actually it is in the procedures, it's in the rule book, that if you're a male, your facial hair has to be kept at a certain length and it has to be groomed. So you just couldn't have it growing wild. You had to look presentable. If you had tattoos they're okay, but they tell us at the same time that you have to have them covered while you're at work, because we're not trying to advertise anybody. We're not trying to advertise anything else other than Mid-Florida while we're at work. So even if you don't go as far as tattoos, like certain shirts you couldn't wear in the corporate office, even when they allow us to, like, you know, dress down casually. There are certain things you still can't wear. Like if it promotes another company, they don't want that, because at the same time, you have to realize that you're at work for Mid-Florida. So Mid-Florida wants you to advertise Mid-Florida. Outside of work, you can do whatever, but in the professional, when you're at work and when you're on the clock, it's just like a level of professionalism that they require of you. So you just can't walk anyway, you can't talk anyway, you have to greet. Even when you're talking to people, you don't call, like the people who come into the bank, we can't call them customers, we have to call them members. there's a specific name that we have to give them. And then when you look at the upper like the corporate level, like the presidents, like president, CEO, CFO, there's just a stand that you, even if they don't tell you, you notice that there's always like a level of, I don't know how to explain it or how to say it, but they attire themselves and they present themselves in such a way that okay, this is a boss, this is the CEO, this is the person that's running that particular department. Like as soon as they walk in the room, you just tell, like, yeah, they're not working on the same level as us. They're working because of just how they present themselves. And it's not like they're looking down on us or talking down on us, but it's just the level of presentation that they, kind of give.
What would you like to share as a final thought or words of encouragement to our high school students that are attending our Minority Male Initiative?
I'd say, honestly, like, don't give up and kind of live in the moment as well. I know with this whole pandemic and everything going on, it might seem like things ain't gonna work out and you ain't gonna be able to get here because of this. And, you can't really have that mindset going into things. I know for me, after I had graduated and things weren't working out for me, I kind of was hard on myself, making it seem like it was my fault. But just because things don't happen right when you think that they should, that doesn't mean that they're not gonna happen at all. Because I before I had full-time, I was freaking out. I was like, oh man, I done graduated UCF. They're not giving me full-time. I gotta pay rent. This is, I'm trying to find my happiness with all this too. So it was a bad spot for me, but eventually as I kept pressing on and just kept the mindset that, oh no, this is gonna happen, because I didn't get this far for it to be the end for me. I didn't graduate from South Florida for nothing. I didn't graduate from UCF for nothing. Everything works out. And now I'm a full-time, stock clerk at Publix, making decent money. I got my own spot. This is my apartment right here. I moved from a studio to a 1-1, paying for it. And you can't let the things that you think is going to stop you. You got to keep going and understand that it all works out in the end. That's my advice.
Yeah, for me, I would say build good habits now, because I know for me, high school, it was pretty easy to not focus on school and still pass and do relatively well. Like, I didn't really study that much, I was just wanted to play basketball every day, go swimming, go to the gym, just have fun, and even my first year or so at UCF, that wasn't really an issue. But then once you start getting into the harder courses, the upper level classes, and especially now in my graduate program, it's like, I'm now finally trying to, build these habits of like, okay, you need to dedicate X amount of time per day to studying and researching and doing all these different things. And it's like, it would have been so much easier if I just got into the habit of doing that when I was younger, when I actually had more time, because now it's like, I want to do all these things, but you have work these 3 days of the week, and then the other 2 days of the week, you're doing research for whatever project you're doing. It's just, learning all these things when I was younger would have been easier. And actually, it's funny because I forget the name of it. There's a course there. I think it's like first year prep or something like that. One of those names that you guys offer at South Florida. And I hated that class when I was there. They're talking about time management, how to use Microsoft Excel and all this stuff. And I'm like, this is useless. And now actually for a project I'm working on for school, it's like 99% work on Excel. And I'm like, man, if I would have actually paid attention in that class, I would know what I'm doing. So now every 5 seconds I'm Googling, oh, how do you do this on Excel? How do you do that? And it's like, you guys literally gave me a class that taught me all that stuff, and I just kind of took it for granted. So I would definitely say work on building those habits now, because it's only going to get harder the further along you get in your education.
You don't necessarily need to know exactly what your life is going to be right now. Don't be afraid to branch out and explore your interests, really. Originally I wanted to be an occupational therapist, I thought, but I interned at a clinic and it was pretty good, but it wasn't really the right fit for me. And I think bunch of trial and error, and now I'm here, and I'm definitely liking my position here. So it's a different path for sure than what I originally planned, but I wouldn't have gotten here if I didn't branch out and try new things.
Hey everybody, thank you for joining us today. My name is Tom Leitzel. I proudly serve our students and staff as president of South Florida State College. This was an incredible day. You were greeted by one of my friends, and that's Dr. Timothy Beard, president of Pasco Hernando State College. Dr. Beard is a leader among all of our college presidents. And so what an honor to have him be with us today. But thank you, Dr. Beard, for your presentation. The topics that we talked about through this Minority Male Initiative is incredible. We believe strongly as one of our major core upholding pillars here at the college in equity. And we also want to make sure that everyone feels welcome here. We have a united front among all staff, faculty, and employees throughout the entire college. So I hope you can join us. Certainly, pursuing a higher education is incredibly important for you and your future. But truly, I hope you consider South Florida State College. That's all what it's about. The future does rely on an educated population. So please study hard in whatever you do, but also we'd love to see you back here at South Florida State College. So thank you for joining us today, and take heed of all the good things that we presented here for you today. If there's anything my staff or I can do to help, we are here to help you, and I appreciate it so much. Thanks all.